Welcome to the Emblazing Leaders Vodcast. I'm your hostess, Dr. Talisa Sullivan. Join me as we hear from leaders across diverse fields around the world. Dr. Melanie Harris, how are you today?
Good morning, Queen. Good morning. Good morning. I am well. I am blessed. I am favored. And I see your crown is sitting on extremely straight, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much. It's because you fixed it. That is exactly why.
We fix each other.
We do. That's what we do. So it's so great to have you on Emblazing Leaders. I'm actually going to start by saying you absolutely inspired my video podcast. I just want you to know being on your gifted table was the highlight of my time with podcasts.
Okay.
I think it was probably the first time, and I was inspired. And so just know that everything that I do, you're an inspiration. So let me start with
Thank
that.
you so much. Thank you so much. And it was truly my pleasure to have you at the gifted table. You pulled your seat up real close. You set the table and you left all of your gifts there. And I know that was a time when we were talking about the quantum 10, and we're going to continue
Yes.
to talk about it and all the things. So thank you, sis. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. So I want to tell our Emblazing leaders out there who we have today. We have Dr. Melanie Harris showing up today. She is a director of school and leadership and accountability. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her, and then if she wants to, she can elaborate. But let me just share that she's been an educator for nearly 25 years, and she's been serving communities in Southern California as a teacher, a district, a coach, an assistant, and a principal, a school principal. During her professional career, she has experienced many opportunities to observe leaders, and then she's been reflecting on her own leadership in the process. She's had leaders that have poured into her for most professionally and personally, and a lot of them have been women leaders. And so these are just some of her great mentors. She's had some great men, she says, but she said women have poured in. There has been a pursuit for her to always be in the forefront of every step on her journey. She always reaches back to pull us other women forward. I just want to say that we appreciate having her here on Emblazing Leaders, and I love being on the gifted table. So, Dr. Melanie, share anything I didn't get a chance to share about yourself.
Oh my goodness. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you so much. And yes, from SoCal to NoCal, I am now in the
Mhm.
Bay as of right now. But yes, I truly, truly honor and do not take for granted every leader who has poured into me, because sometimes we don't realize that we actually have a cup to be filled,
Yes.
right? And when
Mm.
people pour into that cup, you didn't even realize that you needed that relationship equity. You needed to be poured into. You needed someone to have your back. You needed someone who was looking at you with eyes that you had not even seen yourself yet. And
Yes.
most of the time, it has been women. So on my educational journey, I still say I am forever a learner. I am a leading learner and I am a learning leader at all times. And education is something that called me because I had totally different ideas for myself, for my career. But quarter of a century later, still here, and ready to be on fire right now at the
That's right.
Emblazing Leaders.
That's right. On fire with Emblazing Leaders. I'm so glad to have you. And I definitely want to hear about what has shaped. I know you mentioned that women leaders have poured into you, and you did also mention that you had some male mentors too. But I want to know what has shaped you as a leader. Tell us more about your
Mhm.
journey and why are you who you are today?
Well, that's a very loaded question, ma'am, because now you're getting into purpose. Now you're getting into
Yeah,
purpose. Well,
purpose.
what I believe has shaped me as a leader, what's interesting is that I was just reflecting the other day about
Mhm.
just being in education, and I was telling someone this was not my first love. This was not something I wanted to do. Then I thought about it. I was like, wow, I really have been in education for a long time. I was a Sunday school teacher. when I was a teenager. Like I taught the youth Sunday school. I used to love to play school when I was younger. And so I think now as an adult, the things that have really shaped me as a leader has been learning how to be transparent, how to be one who shares the leadership journey and not taking ownership of things that are successful, but owning the things where I know I need to grow or maybe I failed. For me, failing forward in my leadership has been very paramount for me. And I purposely say and when I do fail, I fail forward. You're not going to see me falling back. I'm still falling forward and I'm still reaching towards something or the next thing. Um, I believe being coachable has really shaped my leadership journey because if I come into a space thinking I know it all, I've experienced it all, I've had it all, then then I'm already saying I've met all my goals and I don't need anyone, that people need me. No, I still need people to help guide me. And learning how to be cognizant of service to others is important as well. This is a service industry. This is a service, just opportunity for not only students, but parents, your colleagues, the community. We are in service. They are our clients. And so remembering that. And I also believe my education, of course, have served. My doctorate is in organizational leadership, and I just love the development of that and how it talks about different leadership styles. It's kind of like code switching. You know, we talk about code switching in certain conversations, certain environments, um, certain situations, but there's also times when you have to switch up your leadership depending on that, yet still be grounded in your foundation and your true philosophy. Um, so I would say those are some things that have shaped my journey and continues to shape it as I continue to grow. You're muted, love.
Oh, thank you. I was just talking. I was over here talking to myself too, because it was good too.
It
I
was good. I could see.
it was good. I was like all into it. But the last thing that you said was switch up your leadership, and that right there really like got me thinking about how we
Mhm.
code switch. When you mentioned code switching, like okay, you're code switching, but you're also switching up your leadership. You mentioned a lot of different things. You talk about failing forward, and I love hearing that too because many times we feel like we're in situations where we are in in a place where we're afraid to fail because of what happens when we do fail. You know, sometimes we end up without a job or some those types of things that happen. And so failing forward really resonates with me. And it gives our leaders, our emblazing leaders out there, an opportunity to hear that it's okay to not, to not, well, not, I don't want to say not, but it's okay to fail as long as you're
Absolutely.
as long as you're moving forward in the process. And I'm not just saying that to the emblazing leaders, but I'm saying that to their supervisors, because a lot of times what's happening is the supervisor sees that you're failing, and instead of giving you the support you need, they give you a quick push out. So it's okay to fail
Yeah,
forward.
coach me up.
Yeah, help me, help you,
Lend
help.
a hand. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you for those. Thank you for those golden words because we need to hear that. Um,
Yes.
let me ask you also, what are some strategies that you have found most effective when you are overcoming some unexpected challenging challenges in your leadership?
Besides crying.
You cry. We can cry too.
Only for one night though.
Okay, one night. Cry for only one night, then pull it together. Powder
Forget
your
your
face.
life. Some strategies. I it really depends on the circumstance. I would have to
Mhm,
say that. There's no one strategy that really works because you have to look at where am I in that time and moment and space?
mhm,
Um, what is challenging me? And for me, and I ask a lot of questions. Is it something that's challenging me or am I challenging myself? Is it someone who's challenging me? Is it a situation that can be challenging and I'm
Mhm.
feeling like an imposter that I might not be able to complete the task? So I have to get into that space. Like, what, first of all, is the challenge? Is
Mhm.
it a personal challenge? Is it a professional challenge? What is the challenge? If I'm feeling like someone is challenging me, and I've been in that space several times, be it my staff, be it my supervisor,
Mhm.
um, be it colleagues or what have you, when it seems people are challenging me in my position,
Mhm.
then what I do first is take a deep breath and breathe it out. I typically will take notes or write things down that have me feeling a certain type of way, like
Mhm.
write out my feelings, because my feelings may not necessarily be the reality of it all, right?
Okay.
So I write down my feelings, I address my feelings, and then I go to a trusted ally and I
Okay.
share with them what I'm feeling, what I heard, what I think I heard, and what I believe that experience may be or could be. And sometimes they may give me a different perspective. And that has happened before where I'm like, you're like, take a step back, take a step back and see it from a different perspective. Maybe this challenge is, yes, you've been doing these great things, but have you really stretched yourself to do the next thing? Or
Mhm.
is this your best you? Is this your best you? And if it seems like a challenge, then step up to the challenge. I'll give you a prime example. Um, when I was working for a particular school district, I was called into the superintendent's office that um, our school programs were not meeting their potential, that they were supposed to do for students.
Mhm.
We were a STEAM school, but I was told I was not really doing a lot with STEAM, and I'm thinking to myself,
Mhm.
wow, I thought we did a whole bunch with STEAM, and parents were complaining there wasn't enough things with STEAM. I'm like, okay, so maybe I did get comfortable. And I
Mhm.
said, after I took notes, reflected, rephrased. So this is what you're saying. And I said, give me 30 days and I'm going
Mhm.
to come up with a plan. Give me 30 days to come up with the plan. I'm going to come back and present to you the plan that I have, not only for myself, but for our scholars, for
Mhm.
our staff, and for our next steps. And I did. I went back and keep in mind, I'll put this out there. I was actually on leave at the time because I
Mhm.
was caring for a family member who was dealing with stage 4 cancer.
Mhm.
So I'm in that space, and now I'm being challenged that I'm
Mhm.
not doing enough at my school sites. Okay. So within that 30 block, taking my family member to treatments, hospital
Mhm.
visits, all these things, I'm still processing this. I'm
Mhm.
literally on the phone at at the hospital in a booth on calls, Zooms with my staff, like, oh, I'm at the hospital, but hey, can we have this team meeting? And I went
Mhm.
back 30 days later with a presentation, with what I
Wow.
did, what my baseline was.
Wow.
Here, I was challenged. Here we are. And we started doing the work. So that was just one example of how, of course, I was first in my feelings, like, what you talking about? I
Right.
say what? But again, I had to be reflective, right? Okay, challenge accepted.
Right.
And we started doing the work. We started doing the work. We did have to stretch a little bit more. We did have to
Mm.
stretch a little bit differently. So sometimes you just got to get out your own way and get out your own feelings. Um, and
I
then there's
love
been
that.
other, I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
go
for real.
ahead. No, I was
It's,
going to say I love that because sometimes we are in our own way. And if we
mm-hmm,
don't get out of our own way, we could sit and be thinking that it's another
mm-hmm,
person. The reality is we all have someone that is going to be overseeing us. And
mm-hmm,
the, whether we want it to be this way or not, what matters is their perspective. You know, your perspective matters too, but what matters is their perspective of your performance. If they're saying that you're not performing the way they're asking you to perform, then you have to actually do some reflecting and figure out what do I need in order to rise to that occasion, or whatever the case may be, and then have that dialogue. So I appreciate hearing you say that you reflected, and that you took an opportunity and you took it as a challenge. So I appreciate hearing that.
Yeah, because sometimes I feel that it's not always, I really work on looking at first best intentions when people
Mhm.
say things, but sometimes people don't have good intentions. They're
Right.
really trying to knock you down, you know. It's not
Mhm.
always because they're like, no, I see so much more in you. Sometimes it's not the rah-rah. Sometimes it's, all right, like you said, you're not performing to the capacity I think you can, and we might need to start looking at other things for you to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like you look at first positive best intent, but then also you're a realist. Like, I'm a realist,
Mhm,
so first let me see what the intent is, but I'm also paying
mhm.
attention to whether or not this person is actually looking out for the best interest of me, and I'm going to be able to decipher the two. It sounds like that's
Right.
kind of where you're going with that.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it can be that way. It really can be that way. So I would just impress upon anyone, any of us who are experiencing or identifying something that is a challenge. Think about what a challenge is, and
Mm,
people really observe you based on how you respond to
mm,
adversity, how you
wow.
respond to hard times, how you respond to sometimes character assassination, professional assassination, um, or people just trolling you in your lifetime.
Yeah, you know what? I pulled out of that. Um, Pay attention to your response. Want our
Mhm.
emblazing leaders to hear us out there is like, people are watching your response.
The
So
time.
pay attention to how you respond and respond accordingly and appropriately. So,
Hmm.
wow, this is so good. I'm so excited to be able to like
Yeah.
into people.
And you know what else? And I'm going to take it a little step further.
Let's go.
For the emblazing leaders who are women,
Mm,
our reactions and our responses are viewed totally differently than a man who might be experiencing the same thing, right?
great point.
Sometimes we will hold in the emotional piece, right? So we don't seem soft or what
Mm,
have you, but we're human beings. We
yes.
are human beings. And there are so many women who experience health conditions,
Hmm.
heart conditions, high blood pressure, stress, stroke, loss of hair, there are all kind of things because they're holding in things because they don't want to be seen as an emotional leader. I have to woman up. I have to be superwoman. I have to be a strong woman. Yes, all of those things are important, but what's impacting your life right now? What
Right.
is impacting your life? And there are women who have unfortunately lost their lives due to stress. And I just want to impress upon our women leaders, don't let stress take your best. You are
Mm,
your best you. So have self-care, take care of your heart, take care of your mind, take care of your spirit, take care of your body, because there's only one you. And we will be replaced as quickly as a feather in the wind.
yep. Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And that's something that we noticed, we noticed it as we're moving forward. The position, things happen, people move on, and then all of a sudden that position is filled, and we're like, and then we're forgotten about. So we
Mhm.
definitely need to take care of ourselves. I appreciate this insight on making sure that
Mhm.
we take care of ourselves. And I also appreciate hearing you say that, you know, we hold in our emotions sometimes because we don't want to be seen as emotional.
Mhm.
And when we first started this question, you mentioned, like, when I asked about what strategies, you said, except like besides crying, and it's like we don't make it okay to cry anymore.
Mhm.
We try to hold back the tears.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's how we are able to express what we're experiencing, and we're
Mhm.
so afraid. So I'm glad to hear you say that it's okay, first of all, And second of all, I'm also glad to hear you say that we people experience us differently. So we need to make sure that we are showing up. I want us to show up as our authentic self. And if
Yes.
that means that right now we have to cry, we might have to cry it out, so that we can move forward. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to ask about like I want to move forward into advancing in careers, because we're talking about like crying and sad tears, and but we are both here in the space, and we've both
Mhm.
done some advancing in our careers, and I want to
Yeah.
hear about a particular skill or experience or something that you have that you can give to our emblazing leaders out there that helps you propel forward as you move and navigate into like a advancement in your career.
Mhm. Wow. So it's quite interesting because you know, when I became a teacher, it
Mhm,
was for, at the time, a financial need, right?
okay.
I
Mhm,
needed to make an income more than I had because I was really struggling. So I was one of those emergency credential teachers back in the day, right?
mhm,
But it went from a financial reason
mhm,
to learning how to lean into how I am really making a difference in the lives of these children. So it became more of a call to action, right? A call to action. So moving up, there's been several times where people, like I mentioned earlier, have said, "Hey, have you thought about doing this? Have you thought about, applying for the coaching position? Have you thought about going into administration?" And I really didn't even have I really didn't have a thought about going into administration, but I did want to have my administrative credentials just in case there was like maybe a coordinator or something else that I might want to do, or coaching or something I might want to do. But I was appointed to my first administrative position and I freaked out. I felt I wasn't ready. Talk about the imposter syndrome. So I think what has helped me along this journey has been relationships, building relationships, cultivating relationships with others, and leaning on people who are in positions that are above where I am. You know what I mean? That
mhm.
vertical relationship that's happening, that has really been something that's helped me along my journey um, towards leadership and just as a leader. I just feel you can't do much. You can't go too far without having healthy, meaningful relationships. I'm
Mhm.
not one who's really good at politicking.
Mhm.
I don't know how to work all the politics of the system, but
Mhm.
there are some people who are really good at that. I just work on my relationships, keeping
Yes.
them authentic. Um, Going through, we talked about challenges before. The things that sustained me were
Mhm.
my real board of directors, as I like to call my tribe. Those
Mhm.
people who are talking with me about my next steps, those people who are talking about me when I am not in the room, like talking me up, not talking me
Mhm.
down, and those who are introducing me into spaces that I didn't even know I probably needed to go. Even if it's just a phone call, hey, let me connect you with so and so. They may not have anything available now, but I just want to make sure you all have a connection. Relationships are so important. I really work on not burning bridges, even when I leave positions, because you never know when you may have to cross over that journey again. You never know. You never know. And it could be the most toxic environment or the most toxic situation. But I have learned still not to burn that bridge. Don't burn.
Wow.
Look, even if they're standing on the bridge with the gasoline and the fire starter, I'm still not going to burn that bridge.
I'm having a whole visual here of this bridge with some gasoline and some fire going up. So this is really good. I'm really glad that we're having this conversation because sometimes people don't realize that we're in this small circle, this small educational circle, and things circle back, and you end up in either the same space, or you end up with the same boss, or you end up with the same colleagues. So I hear you saying, build those relationships, authentically build the relationships, making sure that you have mentors. And that one of the things that you mentioned was relationships, and you mentioned it in relation to knowing who can actually speak of you, speak about you, but in a positive manner. So those are the mentorships and the sponsorships, which is one of the things that it sounds like
Yeah,
you were leading to talk about
yes.
sponsorship. And for those emblazing leaders out there that don't know what we mean when we talk about sponsor, basically a sponsor is going to be someone who's going to talk about you in a positive light, regardless of whether you're asking them to or not. You don't even ask them to; they just automatically starts. Like someone says, "Hey, do you know of anyone?" And then Dr. Melanie Harris. Oh yeah, I know Dr. Melanie Harris. She is a director of accountability and assessment. She's amazing. She always has one foot in front of the other and steps forward as fast as she can. She fails forward and embraces it, that kind of stuff. So they're speaking of us regardless of whether we're asking them to or not. We're not even asking. We don't even know. You have no clue. So I appreciate you giving our emblazing leaders those words of wisdom to not burn bridges, to ensure that you have mentors, sponsors, and that you build those relationships, because the politics are going to be there. Just build authentic relationships. So that's exciting.
Yeah, we're going to be emblazing, but we're not going to set the blaze.
Right, right. There we go. We're not going to set the blaze. We're just going
We're
to
not going to
be,
set the blaze.
somebody else is setting it. So, so one of the things that, so thank you for giving us some of those golden words of wisdom. Have there been any challenges, like in advancing, like that you can tell us how to navigate? Like, I know that we talked about as we move forward to make sure that we get those relationships in place, and of course we don't want to go too deep, but if there's been any challenges that we can
Yeah.
navigate, how do we navigate any challenges in moving forward in our career?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think for me, it has been um that self-saboteur. And the reason, and if you hear me speaking, most of the things I'm talking about that are self-reflection and not
Hmm.
necessarily because of someone else,
Right.
because people are going to come at you. People are going to try to attack you. You have to decide, is this going to be a Teflon or a Velcro moment? Do I want this to slide off me because I'm just like, I'm good, or do I want it to stick to me? So
Mm.
these are things we have to decide. So when I think about some of the situations with other people, and I have had some really challenging times, I think it's been me thinking, am I qualified enough? You know, do I really have the skills and the capacity to do this thing? Um, should I even apply for a particular position, for instance, right? Or should I just stay here because it's comfortable, I'm familiar, people are familiar with me? That's not the best way to grow. We plant seeds for a reason so that we can water them. We have to water ourselves through professional learning. We have to get into spaces where we're learning new things, we're learning different things, we're being innovative, we're learning about innovation, we're learning about how to transform cultures, how to transform environments, and all those things. But I think for me, and then, again, this is just for me, the inner saboteur will do more harm to me than anyone outside my bubble, to be quite honest.
I'm going to tell you why this is so profound for our listeners and our viewers. It's profound because of your reflective nature. Um, One of the things that we often do in society is we blame everyone else for all the things that are going wrong in our lives and things like that. And I hear you clearly taking responsibility for some of the things that may go in a different direction. And I know that there are times where in all of our careers and in all of our lives that there people are doing stuff. They're poking us. But the thing is
Sure.
that we don't have to respond. And I think that that's where you're coming from, because even if someone is coming at you or whatever the case may be, you can do something other than respond, or you can respond in a different way. So I hear you reflecting on what has caused you that strife, I'll say, and being able to pivot from that. And so I hope that our listeners and our viewers can hear us say, take responsibility, but also know that there's something happening. We're not saying nothing's happening, but take responsibility for
Right.
how you respond, and don't self-sabotage.
Yeah, and one thing that I want the leaders who are listening to this conversation we're having is that there are bad people out there. There are evil people out there. I mean, let's just put it there are people who don't want you to succeed. There are people who will purposely try to hurt or harm you. And I'm not saying simply turn the other cheek or don't acknowledge that. That's not what I'm saying, because people will try to hurt you and harm you. I've learned a long time ago, those who control your money control your time. So if your employer or your supervisor or someone else, they know, again, people can be very mean and very cruel. Sometimes you have to get an attorney. Sometimes you have to go the legal route because people perform badly. They behave badly sometimes. But even in that process, even if you have to go as far as that process, how are you responding? How are you communicating? You can still do that with class, with ethics, and with integrity, even in those spaces, even in those spaces.
Well, thank you for that. We appreciate hearing it. I definitely want to talk a little bit more about some general leadership insights.
Yes.
Because right now I hear like you giving people good nuggets and golden wisdom, words of wisdom. How can we create an environment where honesty and transparency are valued, but where we can still get that authentic feedback? Because like sometimes people do, like the feedback. You're like you want
Right.
feedback, but it's like it's kind of like how do you balance that? So you're
It all
balancing.
depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really all depends. Like if you as a leader, if you're actually looking for true, and I like to call it, I'm gonna coin this, I ain't gonna coin it, but I always call it feed forward. So anyone who works with me,
I like it.
they
Feed
know I
forward.
always say, what's the feed forward? Again, because whatever I'm doing, I gotta go forward. I understand the concept of feedback, but I always call it feed forward, and everyone gets frustrated with me because I say that. I said, but we're moving forward. But if you're really looking for true, authentic feed forward as a leader, how about having your staff, your team evaluate you? How about having them evaluate you? If you really want to be transparent, if you
Mhm.
really want to know what the good and the bad is, have them to evaluate you. For me, some strategies, of course, it's being transparent, um, having an open door policy as much as you can. Being visible as a leader is super important. Sharing your leadership
Mhm.
decision making with others, and that's like across the board, sharing it with people vertically, horizontally, all the things. You can't do everything on your own. You have to hear other folks' voices. You have to get their input. And then you also have to look at who are those people who have positional power based on who they are and who they know. And this could be someone who is subordinate to you, but everyone else is giving them power. And so they're that person who always comes to you like, well, the staff is doing this or the people are saying this. They trust that person. That's that positional power. So who are
Yeah.
those people who you can possibly um, work with,
Mhm.
perhaps over time turn into allies so you can work collaboratively together? But you have to identify those things. Sometimes as leaders, we need to get to the balcony of our own leadership. We need to
Mhm.
get to the balcony. We need to see it from a different perspective.
Yes.
A lot of times we're on the dance floor. We're right there in the mix. And as you should be. But sometimes you have to not only step back, you have to step up. You have to step up and see it from a different perspective. So I invite people to do that. But look for those allies and look for those opportunities to connect with folks who you probably wouldn't connect to. And sometimes that might be the person who might be causing you, more grief than anything. But find out why. Like have a personal conversation with folks. And if it doesn't go the way you intended, if it still ends up being um, in a negative space, then at least you know what your next moves are. at least you know how to navigate um, communicating with that person and still being authentically you. But it's the relationship piece that is just so important. And we have to put people sometimes in different buckets in order to change culture, to initiate change, to discuss change, or to look at what really needs to be transformed.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to the feed forward. I'm gonna say that because you said it. But the reason why is because I actually did work in an organization where they did allow that, and it's an amazing, amazing tool if you use it properly. And I'll say I wanted to use it I wanted to use it so much because sometimes you'll get a chance to use it as a teachable moment too. So I think it's important that we give people an opportunity to authentically give us feedback as leaders. And I did also work in an organization where the leader was wanting people to give feedback, but wanted to do it like in a Zoom like or in a
Oh no.
like a where they could control the. I was like, okay, that ain't going to be real feedback, but yeah, but giving them an opportunity to give you. I can't remember what the program that we used, but whatever the program was, it was anonymous, and people could
Yes.
actually authentically give the
Yeah.
leaders feedback. Now, again, it can be weaponized. So I want to tell our leaders out there that
Absolutely.
you want to make
Absolutely.
sure that you train people on how to give feedback. And I'll give you an example. I remember when I was getting this feedback, someone had said something like, Dr. Sullivan in the feedback anonymously, Dr. Sullivan, we had some, it was something like we had some really dumb administrators, over our time, but Dr. Sullivan is the dumbest or something. It
Mm.
was something to that. And I hate to even
Hmm.
put that back in
Well,
the
people
universe.
get emboldened. They get emboldened when they're anonymous.
It was, I was like that. I was like, it felt like a dagger. I was like, somebody thinks I'm dumb. It's the first thing I thought. And I was like, pero yo hablo español. I'm bilingual. Yo tengo un PhD. I was like, and I have a PhD. I was like, wait, I'm not dumb. Let me dispel that right now. And let me not
Mhm.
allow for that to be internalized. So I had to
There you
really
go.
combat that because it was really meant to be a dagger. So we have to be careful with how we utilize those tools and teach people
Hmm.
how. So what I would have
Yes.
done, which I didn't get the opportunity to, I would have used that to say, I would have shown them and to say, hey, this is feedback that I don't know what to do with. What should
Hmm.
I do with this information? Now, if you had said I was dumb and you said why, I might have been able to really understand, oh, they think I'm dumb because of this. But just saying someone is not intelligent or something like that
Hmm.
doesn't give them the proper feedback. So Emblazing Leaders like teach people how to use the tool if you're going to use that as a tool so that it's
Yeah.
used not as a weapon. So
Right. And I have done that as well. I've given an anonymous survey at two school sites where I was a site leader. And
mhm,
it's interesting when you put it out there like, hey, this is going to be totally anonymous. No, this is not even a Google form. This is like a whole another type of setup,
mhm,
totally anonymous. Put your stuff in there. You already know. You already know you're going to have some folks on one end
yeah,
that's going to give you the real, and you're going to have those folks that's going to go ahead and give you, especially if it's a Likert scale, 1, 1, 1. Can I give a 0? It's a 1 as long. So consider the source. But
yes,
what I did, I did share the feed forward with them, and I let them know. I'm going to give you all a few days to do this, and then I'm going to bring it back to our next staff meeting. And I did. And I showed them all of the results. And I was like, and I even highlighted something. I was like, yeah, and look right here. This is clearly an area I need to work on because I'm looking at the number of people who responded in this way. So thank
yeah,
you to those of you who did that. Now, this one down here that has like this one little response, we're going to call that an outlier. But thank you for your input. Like that's what I'm like. Thank you for your input. And I don't think they thought I would share the
right,
results with them, but I did. I said, this is me being transparent. And then after I did that, I got individual emails from staff members that was like, thank you for being so transparent and open. I know that wasn't easy, and no
mhm,
one has ever allowed us to do that. And we hope that, or I hope, and hope that this was beneficial for you. Because I told them, I was like, thank you. This is very beneficial. I'm not taking it personally. I'm taking it professionally.
that's
So if you're
awesome.
saying some things, I said, but these little outliers, like that, that one right there,
Yeah.
please feel free to set up a meeting so we can talk one-on-one.
Right, right. That makes sense. Yeah. You know, and
Yes.
I love the idea that people have an opportunity to give their feedback, because how do we get better
Mhm.
if we don't, or feed forward, I should say.
Yeah.
How do we get better if we don't listen to what how others are
Yes.
experiencing our leadership?
Mhm.
We don't
Mhm.
get better. So
Right.
that's awesome. I definitely want to go into some future forward thinking, and
Let's do it.
I'm going to ask you about advice that that your younger self would give to the leader that's sitting before me today, before our leaders today.
Mm.
What would your younger self say to you in your leadership journey?
If I could go back and talk to younger Melanie when she was just Miss Harris, right? Um, I would honestly tell her, please just be patient with yourself.
Mhm.
Be patient with yourself. Allow people who are already living this life help guide you through some really meaningful learning so that you don't necessarily have to make mistakes that maybe they've made that they're trying to prevent you from doing. I would
Mhm.
tell her that. Just be patient with yourself. Um, know that you are very talented.
Mm.
Don't doubt yourself. Don't think that you are second choice or second place to anyone because you're always number one to you.
Wow.
And continue to just smile, be kind, and help others along the way.
Wow. Oh, that's so brilliant to give yourself that advice. And to our blazing leaders out there, Dr. Melanie, is there anything else you want to drop on us today before we end our time today, but not forever, because you know we are connected.
Ever connected. I would just like to invite all of the followers and subscribers and Blazing Leaders to please check out the Gifted Table. It is also on YouTube. I am getting back into circulation. I have been off the grid for about a year or so, just dealing with health issues, health concerns, but God has brought me through and I'm getting back into my groove. So check out the Gifted Table. You will see the one and only Dr. Sullivan featured on an episode as well. And I'm really hoping to get her back there. But that is
Oh,
also a platform
I
for
will
our
be back
leaders.
on. Let me tell you, I'll be
Yes,
back on. I'll come on. I mean, we can actually tag team this and be like on all the time. So I'm looking forward to it. The Gifted Table was one of my first podcasts that I was on, and I will forever be grateful and inspired by your leadership, Dr. Melanie.
yes. Thank you so much. And I just want to encourage all of our leaders, continue to lead, continue to learn, continue to lean in, and just continue to remember you too have some amazing gifts. So leave them on the table for others to receive.
Y'all know y'all got to check out that Gifted Table. So thank you, Dr. Melanie.
Thank
We'll be
you.
on soon.